We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey. I speak from the role of a patient and I have Crohn's disease and
I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak in the role of a caregiver. And you may notice Mason was, I think, wearing this sweatshirt last podcast. It has been washed. It has been.
I also made the choice not to wear this because it's
Right.
color balance.
So anyways, we are heading towards the end of the year. We're still not to Christmas yet.
No.
Mason yesterday finished his last day, technically it's Friday.
The
His
last
day early.
assignment of college.
Right.
This semester.
This semester, yeah, the full semester.
And it was my favorite class. It was geology.
Yeah.
Lovely class.
Yeah, he also likes speech a lot too.
Speech was also great.
Yeah.
That one I actually finished. Was it that the first one I finished?
Yeah.
Yes.
That teacher was awesome.
He was a great
He was one of your
teacher. He was
favorite.
really
Yeah.
funny.
So he had a couple favorite teachers. I always enjoy hearing about because it's really cool when you find a teacher who I think not only cares about like Mason has said it to teach you the material, but
Yes.
cares about the students too.
Yeah, they care about the students actually knowing.
Yeah.
They want to help them learn. They care about the subject, and you can tell they're interested in it and the students' well-being.
Right. And I think anytime that a teacher is really into something and enjoys teaching it, it's going to make for a better class experience. And you're going to learn more. You're going to naturally want to learn more.
And it really made me look forward to those classes because you can tell kind of when the teacher is like, they want to teach the kids, but they're not set on 100% getting the kid to understand it and the students' well-being.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have other stuff to do. I don't expect that of them. But it's really nice and refreshing when you get one of those classes because you might have two other classes like I had where they're a little bit more challenging. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. But you get to look forward to the start of the week, Monday, because they upload the module and you're like, all right, my favorite teachers just posted their new videos and their new assignments. What do we get to do? And it's exciting. So
you completed your first full-time semester.
Yeah.
We should be really proud of that.
yes,
So yeah, and otherwise just been, I guess, just
in a way.
yeah, normal stuff over here for now. And but we thought it'd be kind of cool to end the year talking about because we had fun the last episode we did. We talked about what's in the news, and so I think this is something I want to add more to our podcasts. But for now, I think what was in the news that was big IBD news for this past year. So I think it's also important because there's a lot of people, and I say this is not just people without IBD. People with IBD, a lot of people just post something like, oh, here's a new breakthrough. They don't take 10 seconds to go to Google and verify that this article, because most people just assume that if an artitle looks legit, it's written by an author, that it's got to be accurate.
Which is pretty easy to do nowadays, because I mean,
there's
AI, ChatGPT to write you a paragraph about this made-up thing I made, and then ask, I don't know, Sora or another AI picture generator to create these pictures of a scientific lab and say, here's the labs we're at and we're doing. It's easy to make stuff up, and you can debunk this stuff with a little Google search.
And it's important to do that. Just like whenever we do a show, we do a lot of research, and we also still admit that it's possible
that we are still
something is still missed or may not be entirely correct, but we do our best to research. And I've seen the past couple of weeks, this is why I was thinking of it. I had a couple people I know post, IBD related information, and several things in the article are debunked very quickly. And it's like, let's take more responsibility for what we share, what we post, because you get people's hopes up, and sometimes it's misleading. And that's the last thing we want to do for this for the IBD community.
And another thing is because there was the one a while ago that was talking about a cure. They found a cure.
Yeah, we did an episode on that one.
And I mean, that's, even though it's not true, it's still positive, kind of. But the part that really hurts about it is for someone who doesn't actually have Crohn's disease or understand it, they're gonna say, "Oh, cool, they got a cure. We can stop fundraising."
Right. People start ignoring,
No,
yeah. Or they may take misguided information because they don't know who wrote this and
Mhm.
they may, want to change course of treatment or something because they think that this new breakthrough is more accurate.
And then they end
So,
up going out their biologic, building up antibodies, and
yeah,
then
hopefully you guys are just checking with your
yeah,
doctors and
check
so
with your
so
doctors.
today with that said, just we're going to put links to all of these that we're talking about, but
Yes,
it's always research on our end as much as we can do to make this accurate.
you're trying to make it possible.
Yeah, but you can bring any of these up, talk to your doctor, see if they've heard about them, if you have any questions. But really, it's just going to be kind of about like what was in the news regarding IBD this past year. And so we're going to start first with new and upcoming trials for treatments that were discussed. And of course, there's going to be a lot more. We don't have time to cover,
Everything.
all of them.
We don't have that amount of time unless
Right.
you guys want a
But
5 hour video.
rest assured, what we're covering here, there is much more
Yes,
IBD news out there than what we're covering. But
there
this is
definitely
kind of we try to pick probably the most popular articles
most
or
popular
things like
ones to
that.
end the year on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let Mason pronounce the first drug,
So,
the name,
so the first drug's named obefazimod.
obefazimod. Yes,
Obefazimod.
good job.
Yeah.
And so what that
Now,
is,
let's give thanks applause here because
yeah,
she put the pronunciation
right.
next to the word
I had
so I can see how to pronounce it and
right.
not going
Yeah, you're like whatever that one is.
well, whatever it's called. You guys will have
Yeah.
to look it up.
But what it is, which is kind of cool. I mean, it looks like they're really trying to go for more pills, different ways you can treat this as opposed to just the infusions the way it used to be, and then it moved to injections. So it's kind of cool that there's options,
Mhm.
different options. And what's also interesting is when there's usually a pill, you're going to know it's not a biologic. And
Mhm.
so it's like, okay, so whenever I see that, I'm like, well, what is it? Basically, so real quick
Mhm.
recap. Do you want to read what it says about biologics right there? I mean, I know you know this, but
Yes.
it's a little more.
Biologics are derived from natural sources such as human or animal genes and microorganisms and are designed to block specific immune system proteins that cause inflammation.
Right. And then something else that they've been using to treat are JAK
Mhm.
inhibitors or Janus kinase inhibitors. That inhibits the JAK
Yeah.
enzyme, which is a pathway that promotes inflammation. So by blocking that, so it's two different ways
JAK
to help
inhibitor
inflammation. And
inhibits.
what's important here is this is, let's see, it says it's a daily oral pill for ulcerative colitis. So I want to, doesn't say Crohn's disease yet, but as most of you know, things sometimes start off
Yes.
as treating one
And then they treat both.
and then it treats both. So they have to just get approval for both. So sometimes it's, an interesting how that happens. But so right now it says ulcerative colitis. And how this one works, we're not going to go into a lot of detail, okay? But just real quick, because I thought this was interesting. It works by increasing the body's production of a small regulatory molecule called the microRNA 124, which helps rebalance immune activity and reduce inflammation in the gut. By targeting this natural pathway rather than blocking specific immune signals, like many of the current treatments do, obefazimod,
Phasmod, yeah.
obefazimod, that's right. Its mission is to control disease activity without broadly suppressing the immune system, which could lead to fewer side effects and more sustained symptom relief. So interesting, they're trying, I think the real focal point, it seems like with some of these that I was looking into, is trying to understand better ways to treat this than suppressing that immune
Yeah.
system, which would be awesome. Like that would
Yeah.
be really cool.
I think that's a really cool idea. With how Crohn's is, obviously, I'm not the scientist working here. I'm not
Nope.
a doctor, but just from what I know, I'm interested to know more about that because
Mhm.
from what I've heard, when you try to increase, say, the immune system with Crohn's disease, you'll go into a flare. If you decrease the immune system with a biologic, that prevents you from going in flare. So I wonder how your immune system stays the same. Wow.
Because it targets inflammation. So,
Okay.
and it
So
rebalances, it says, the immune activity. So, by providing a rebalance as opposed to a suppression, I think is the difference. I think that's the key word. This is not something that is out there yet.
no,
It's
it's
just,
still in testing.
yeah. So, because we're just talking about trials that are in progress right now. There'll be a link. You guys can read more about it because there's a lot more details. I think it's important for you guys to learn about this. Super important. So you know your options and you know what's out there. And so yeah, so welcome you to look at that. The next one that is in a trial they're working on. Do you want to try to pronounce that?
This one.
Okay.
Can I pronounce it? Icotrokinra. Icotrokinra.
That's a hard one to say.
That is.
Icotrokinra.
Say that 20 times fast.
This is a first-in-class oral IL-23 receptor blocker. So currently we have options that are like Stelara, Skyrizi that work with the IL-23, different subunits, but they work with those, but those are both injection. And so this is interesting to me that they're able to do that with an oral peptide is what they call it. And so you're probably asking, what's an oral peptide?
What's an oral peptide?
Right?
I don't know what it is, but it looks interesting.
Here's the answer. You can read it or I can.
I'll read it. I'm going to read the.
So what is a peptide, Mason?
What is a peptide? Peptides are short chains of amino acids under 40, simpler and often lab synthesized, sitting between small molecules and complex proteins, biologics, which are large, complex molecules from living sources.
Right. The difference between a peptide is that amino acid he mentioned. It's a short chain under 40. So this classifies it differently. And it's not as like complex and has the large molecules like the biologics have. It sounds like it's just like it's a different like recipe almost that they figured out where you can take this orally because a lot of things we've had other episodes where we talked about biologics and because people are always wondering why can't it be a pill and there's a reason why they cannot. And so this is interesting. What was also extremely interesting, I made a note here. They are moving into phase 3. So if you look at trials, guys, you'll understand there's a phase 1, phase 2. Phase 3 is pretty far.
That's pretty far.
Right. You're getting much further into it. And again, maybe that's something we'll talk about the different phases of the of that process because it's important.
I'm not remembering. Is it phase 3 that after phase 3 you are released, or is it phase 4? Is there another?
I believe phase 3 you can apply with the FDA. You have to get approval. So then they start writing things up. So they get through all their trials and then they can make this proposal to the FDA to get it to go through. But we should. I keep running. I need to make notes to myself. Like, let's do this.
We have a video about this.
Right.
So if you want to watch that,
we should do that. They are moving into phase 3 for adults and adolescents.
That's interesting.
So that's pediatric ages. I think they mentioned 12 and above. What is interesting in all of the studies I've seen, and I mean, I definitely could be wrong because I could have missed something, but I've only seen adults.
Yeah.
I don't usually see anything in trial phases with children.
Yeah, that's
so that would mean that they're trying to make this jump to get this approved right away for kids, which isn't now it's 12 and above, but so that still makes it easier to have that data for a younger group. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I thought that to me was the biggest takeaway on that one was like, wow, they're working on adolescents. That's amazing. Wish they could do that more.
That's already surprising. It's surprising when they're already training for adolescents. But what's crazy is it's just in trial still. So that's pretty far.
It's pretty far into it with that, and for both groups
too.
So
you go
right.
You got this.
And then the next one, we had kind of mentioned this one after we went to the Crimson Gladys Foundation Gala because Dr. Targan is someone who's been working on this. And so when I saw this headline, I was like, I believe this is the one Dr. Targan's working on, but I thought it could have been different. When I clicked on it, I saw Dr.
Targan is there.
Yeah, so it's a Cedars-Sinai press like a release on this, so you'll see it. And so what it is, it's an investigational antibody targeting the TL1A called tulisokibart. So that's
tulisokibart.
Yeah, and it's a mAb, so it's like a biologic. Was in other words, if you guys haven't watched other videos, then you might not have heard that. But we've discussed this in detail. So when you see mAb, MAB, you usually know what the derivative it is, what it is from. But so it's a monoclonal antibody that targets the TL1A. What's unique about this is it might help target fibrosis and Crohn's disease. So fibrosis is a tough one to treat. And so finding something that will treat this is important.
That's definitely a big deal.
Also something I noticed was a really big deal with this one. They said the response, like, so when you start taking this, like, how long it took you always have to wait, right? Like, okay, was the Remicade working? Was the Stelara working? Was the Entyvio working?
We had this, do it about for
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
And on that time.
And even that, I think they pushed a little further, but they were like, it's not working. So what's interesting with this one, The response is rapid. They notice that inflammatory markers dropped within a week.
Wow.
And this is what's cool because Dr. Targan really is promoting like the specialized medicine, like precision treatments, and
Precision.
so this is the kind of thing that helps because you can look much faster and
Mhm.
see if those markers are dropping like they should be.
Within a week.
So
That's
that's amazing.
insane. That's yeah, 'cause
Right,
you
that's a
can
big
get it,
deal.
and then in a week you're like, all right, is it working?
Right, these are
Well, no,
different
I need to move
things.
on to something else.
Yeah. So
That's
that's a to me that's a huge deal. I think there's so many different factors you can look at it when looking at these, but I'm like when I saw that I went, oh my gosh, I knew you'd be like, whoa.
cool.
So
That's good. That's
it
good news.
it was developed with a diagnostic tool to help identify people who are most likely to benefit from the drug. There's that precision medicine.
Precision. Yes,
So that's
we're
cool.
getting there.
So that would introduce precision medicine to inflammatory bowel disease, IBD care. And so I think this is a really promising story for multiple reasons. And I'm excited to follow this one. So hopefully that one's in phase 3. And they said that's where they determine the effectiveness and safety of
All right.
tulisokibart as a treatment. And
Hopefully it
so
goes well.
yeah, and they're looking at it. It said also to treat Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. So
Wow,
hopefully,
impressive.
yeah, so that would be
Dr. Jard
amazing. Yeah.
started
And
with
we know,
Remicade, and he's still doing that's amazing.
yeah, so he's still
Wow.
looking for stuff and TL1A is a relatively new one too, so that'd be kind of groundbreaking if they figured that out. And so I mean obviously him and other colleagues, which
Yes, him and other
thank you
colleagues.
to Cedar
Yes, thank
Sinai,
you,
all you
Senior
you know,
Science.
incredible.
You guys are great. It's
Yes.
crazy what Dr. Targan,
What do you
for such an amount of time he's done.
Yeah,
So little round of applause for
right.
Dr. Targan.
Yes, one of our favorite people. And so another sections we're going to talk about that's happened this year are regulatory advances. And these are important for other reasons. So something that happened, I don't put the pronunciation for how to say this, so I'm going to let you give it a try. So it's an FDA update it's for Rinvoq. And but let's do the science. I'll let you do the science name. What is
Do you know how it's pronounced? So if I say it wrong,
I
you're
don't.
not like, oh shoot. Up Upadacitanib.
Upadacitinib.
Upa Is it
Upadacitinib.
Upa or Upa?
I don't know. Let's say upadacitinib.
Upadacitinib.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also known as Rinvoq, which is
Oh,
a JAK inhibitor, which we
see,
talked about.
it's
We
easier to
just,
say revoke.
yeah, it's easier. So this one's already been approved, but there was an FDA update. And so the important thing with this is I think this, so I had heard when Rinvoq came out, people were scared because of the side effects, because they're like, oh, these JAK inhibitors have some crazy side effects compared to, something
Biologics.
like Remicade. What happened is there was an indication change for it. And what it is that it may be used for patients who have received any approved systemic therapy for IBD if anti-TNFs are considered clinically inadvisable.
Mhm.
So anti-TNF like Remicade or Humira. So those are usually the first line,
Yeah,
and
those
then
are the first ones that you're started with, basically.
right, and then you have to try to get permission for these other ones. But by changing this indication, you can go straight now. Rinvoq is now in that same level, I believe, like Stelara and Tivio. So yeah, and one of the reasons for that is because they've done recent observational studies of patients with IBD that have been treated with JAK inhibitors that they have not supported their earlier fears of higher risks in comparison with anti-TNFs. So good for safety, guys.
Yeah, good
So
safety.
really two good things for Rinvoq. So I was excited to see that. So the earlier fears that were there with there's these higher risks than, if you're compared to Remicade, seems like
They're
it
no
might
longer
have been
there.
unfounded. And unfortunately that's the way this goes because we know it can go two ways, It could have gone the other way.
Yeah. And Rinvoq,
Hmm.
I'm seeing it's a JAK inhibitor.
Right?
So I'm assuming it's a pill.
Yes.
It's a pill? Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
So
When
it's
I
a
hear
pill.
Rinvoq, I was thinking of a injection.
Yeah.
Or
No,
oh wait, that's impressive.
it is. It is. So that's
I'm scared of
exciting.
pills personally, but that's cool.
You probably, but yeah, so but it's a cool thing because it's in a whole different category, but now it is able to be referred is
Cool.
to help more people. So the more
Yes.
positive changes and for treatments, that's great. The other information that was part of this group was there's been headway that was made to the IL-23 inhibitors.
Oh, why is there no
Um,
sciencey name?
so, well, Tremfya, we're just going to
Okay,
go with that.
Tremfya.
Yeah. So Tremfya, which we talked about in another podcast. We've talked about what
Yes,
Tremfya
yes,
is.
you
We
have.
went over the differences compared to other similar IL-23 inhibitors. But Tremfya right now is currently the first and only IL-23 inhibitor to
Wow.
offer IBD patients robust clinical and endoscopic results with a fully subcutaneous regimen,
Wow.
now across both ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Big deal with that. What that means. For some of you listening, you're probably like, so okay. But what that is, so usually, like when when Mason started Stelara, he had to do an IV infusion
For the
first.
first one, yeah.
So usually it starts with an IV infusion, then you go to injections. Tremfya, what's unique is they skip that step and it
they
goes
just go
straight.
straight
It's
to
just a fully subcutaneous
injections.
regimen.
Wow.
Right. So that is just a cool thing for people who don't want IV. For kids, I think especially that would have been something.
That would definitely have been something.
Right. You would have been like, let's take that because I don't have to. So if you're trying to choose maybe between Tremfya and another option, this might be a reason for you to choose it.
And I'm really splitting a hair here because it's literally only one infusion, but you're saving your veins as well for other infusions.
Right.
It's only one, so
right.
But there's still the benefit of that, so it's very cool.
I'm sure there are going to be this, and what's cool to me is it's not going to remain where this is the only one like that. There's going to be more like that. Advances, what this just all kind of shows to me is that advances are being made that you guys don't all know about. Like things are happening, and so all this is going on in the background, and it's creating better treatment options for the future. So that's what's exciting. It's like, all right,
I mean,
that's really cool.
Think about it like that because that's a really cool option where it's just the subcutaneous regimen. And at the time when Remicade was made, it was the first and only treatment, right?
Right.
And so Tremfya is the first and only fully subcutaneous regimen.
Right.
And the first is just the start of a whole new category.
And it just keeps better and better is what happens.
Get better.
Yeah.
You're looking good for this Christmas.
Yeah. So that's good news, right? Yeah. And so news over the course of the year has been precision medicine and biomarkers. And so
precision medicine.
There's something, so some of these are going to be hard for me to explain.
All right.
I'm going to leave you guys with, obviously the links so you can read them.
You have to do your own research sometimes.
Yes. And if you ever are having, I mean, I don't know if I definitely want to suggest this, but if you're ever having a hard time understanding what you're reading, you can always go to something like a ChatGPT, put in the link and ask it to summarize it for you if you're having a hard time. But again, you don't always want to trust that because they may get something wrong. But you can sometimes do that to help interpret and understand some of these articles that might be a little more heavy on the research.
ChatGPT and Google AI, they're great.
Yes.
Their AI is it's just taking from sources that are popular, and there's always the Wikipedia, someone could change it, and
so sometimes it's
obviously they're not gonna just go straight from that.
Right. So at least you're so it's interesting on this, it's gonna pull just directly from this article. How it summarizes it, I don't know. But
I mean, you can literally ask it, explain this to me like I'm 6 years old.
Right.
And it will.
And it will.
It's impressive. It's not perfect.
So, I mean, if it's not something that is crucial or critical for you, but you just kind of like, I don't get what this article is saying, you want to try it, cool. So that's just, You
could ask your doctor about that article, right?
Yeah. So what this is it's research into blood and biopsy-based molecular biomarkers in advancing helping identify which patients may benefit from specific treatment pathways and moving toward precision medicine and IBD therapy. So this is basically, I'm going to read one more thing because I think it's going to help you understand this before we start talking about it. So the blood and biopsy-based molecular biomarkers says they may offer more effective therapy guidance in IBD than conventional monitoring methods such as measuring the fecal calprotectin or C-reactive protein levels, according to the results of this. It's a German guide IBD study. So they have been working on finding a different way to monitor the disease to see if these are more effective in telling you if your medicine is working. And so is it faster in determining it? That's what they're trying. They're trying to find a way when you take a treatment to make sure it's working. What they're trying to do is do it faster. And so by doing this and getting results faster, they can tell you quicker that this medication may not be working. Let's switch you. And that also helps lead to results for precision medicine.
All right. So that's pretty cool. So let me get this straight. They're basically finding a way to track a treatment better with
than like using calprotectin and C-reactive. Yeah.
And I don't are they saying at the top here that they are trying to get away from blood and biopsy based?
No, they're focusing on that.
Okay, so they're focusing on okay.
Yes.
So in the future, biopsy, we're gonna have to do more.
So kind of like I did a quick, and you guys can read this to make sure I'm correct on this. When I read this article, they had done a study where they did all of these patients received scopes. So they did get an endoscopy and
Okay.
colonoscopy. So this was in tandem with those. This was not just alone because, as you know, you can't just do like the calprotective and C-reactive to diagnose something.
You have to
But
do almost
you
everything.
can. They try to use them. They will use it to monitor. So they look at those things. But what they would do is they would do lab draws. I think it was like probably like, I don't know if it was every 4 weeks, but kind of like what you already do with your Entyvio, where they do your labs every four
Yeah.
weeks. And so they would just do an extra lab and to find out. So they do those labs, which are the blood labs, and they would have another group who was still doing the C-reactive, fecal calprotectin. And so they were doing a comparison to see which one was more effective. And I think it was actually all the same ones. So, like the way I understood this, if you were in the study, they would be doing the blood and biopsy based molecular biomarkers, they'd be doing the calprotectin and C-reactive along with the scopes and see which one was more indicative of something not working. And so so far it looks really positive. So I don't know if I explained that completely wrong or if it
No,
makes sense.
pretty good job of explaining it for not
But
putting it up here. So
yeah, so
obviously, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, we're not going to know
right.
everything perfectly.
If
We're
there's a
going
doctor
off of
listening right now, might
research.
be like cringing and covering your ears, but this is what I got from the article. And so again, I'm going to leave you guys with the article so you can do your own research and own reading because I think some of these things are going to be very interesting to you and you might be like, I want to learn more about it. So I definitely want to share that. There's been some basic science breakthroughs for it says informing future therapies. So and we had already talked. So this was pretty
I'm
cool.
seeing AI
We had
in the
talked
center.
about this in our last is one of the news things that was more recent where the AI uncovers underlying genetic mechanisms. And that's the one where they used artificial intelligence to clarify how the NOD2 gene interacts with other molecular players in the gut immune regulation. We talked about that last week, so I'm not going to go over that again,
Right.
but we did discuss that last week. I'm going to do a link to that because I don't know if I put the link up for last week. So I'm going to put the link to that source so you can read about that a little bit more.
I mean,
But
it's definitely interesting. AI is not perfect, and
it's here.
yeah, it's here, and we are used to everything done by humans, right?
Right.
So we're definitely getting into, I wouldn't say it's scary, but it's just
It's scary because it's
interesting.
probably new, but it
It's
is
scary because it's
interesting.
new. It's just
Yeah,
interesting having a computer obviously isn't sentient in the form of human,
right.
but it's
Like, is there
interesting.
somebody reading this stuff to
Yeah.
double check, make sure the AI is right?
And it's just interesting how we're having AI do such important things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because AI will get stuff wrong from time to
Right.
time. Humans will get stuff wrong from time to
They
time.
do too.
But it's interesting how we're having AI do, like you said, I wonder if anybody's rereading this,
Right.
reading from it.
They're taking medical
Mhm.
information and they're learning it's learning from
No,
it, which is
yeah,
actually very helpful. But
definitely.
anyways, so that's we kind of talked about that the last
Very interesting.
episode.
Kind of scary.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting.
The other thing that was kind of interesting to me is organoid and model systems
Ooh,
advances.
okay.
And this is says cutting edge intestinal organoid technologies that are improving our ability to model human IBD and test new therapies more accurately than before. Because everything is really I believe it's done on like lab mice, lab rats.
Okay,
And
interesting.
so sometimes those reactions aren't going to be exactly identical to a human how we're going to react. So they are
Interesting.
using stem cells to essentially create mini organs to test on.
That's really interesting.
I was like, I mean, I don't know what you guys are imagining, but I didn't look at any images of this, but I was like, like, my mind went kind of crazy on this one. I was like, what is going on? Like some Frankenstein kind of stuff, like there's like a
It's
laboratory but,
same thing as the nerve system, right?
so I encourage you guys to read this article because there's a lot to understand with and take in. I think it's just interesting. So I encourage you to read the article.
It's definitely interesting.
Some of the things that they're saying is that there's some challenges still to this. There is no vascular system. So organoids lack blood vessels, and
Mm,
that is essential, it says, for your nutrient delivery and your immune cell trafficking. So
yeah, kind of
that is a
important.
challenge.
Kind of important.
Another one is that the most organoids don't include the immune cells that are central to
Okay.
IBD inflammation. You don't have a complete immune system set up or component with this. Another challenge is protocol variability across labs. There's differences in how these organoids are grown, and so if that's obviously we don't have a control if something is different, it makes it hard to compare those results, right?
Yeah.
So this isn't again, these are in the news. This is just stuff that's being worked
Yeah,
on.
just
It's in the early phases,
it's gonna improve.
but what's exciting is that people number one care
Yeah, they care to research this
to
stuff.
do all this.
Yeah,
This is
it's going
incredible.
somewhere.
Right.
That just,
I think it's
it's
exciting, right?
definitely exciting.
Because I think a lot of us, when you just go to the hospital or you go to your appointments and you just do your normal stuff with this disease, it can feel like you're kind of stuck and like, what's good happening? But there's all this stuff that is happening, which is pretty cool. So I don't,
Really quick, go up really quick. It's kind of funny. I was going to say, when you said orientate and model specific advances,
uh-huh.
I just pictured something really goofy. I was picturing that they somehow figured out how to make more realistic those little models that you see
Oh,
in the hospital rooms of like the human body. I'm like,
oh,
congratulations, we figured out how to make more realistic
you
contestants.
can tell we spend a lot of time there because there's all these
Hey,
body
we made this
parts.
skeleton look a little bit better. We advanced.
I
I was just
know,
picturing
right?
goofy little thing, but no, that's really interesting. Not what I was
I
expecting at
it's
all.
not see that's why even when because at first I'm like, what's an organoid? And then I'm like reading this article, I'm like,
It's a
oh
little.
my gosh,
Oh my goodness,
bro,
they're recreating
like
organs.
incredible. So I don't totally know. I mean, I know it's in my mind. I have no idea if it's anything like that. So I'm going to be doing more research into this, but just want to throw that out there for you guys. Read the article and it's
Read it. It's
interesting.
fun. Reading is healthy.
The next one is in the pediatric IBD focus,
Yes.
and learning and focusing more on that. And so I think this one is important. This is going to be interesting. They're looking at research programs that are identifying sex-specific differences in pediatric Crohn's disease and improving guidance for personalized treatments that support healthy growth and development in children. So basically, should boys and girls be treated differently? That's a really interesting question, especially when you're growing. Different hormones, there's puberty and different things going on with boys and girls.
Didn't
So
it?
does it affect it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would.
One of the important things is, I mean, maybe looking at growth patterns. Do girls
Yeah.
grow at certain points differently than boys do? And so, and because growth and the development in children is so important. And this is something that adults don't have to worry about, who are not unless you're an adult diagnosed as a child. But if you're diagnosed as an adult, you've already gone through all your growth, all your development.
Yeah.
So your body has done all that. But for kids who haven't, it's a very big part of the treatment that a lot of people just overlook and don't understand. Mason is definitely shorter.
Yeah, definitely shorter.
Definitely shorter than he is projected. I mean, by a good, probably
I'm
like
okay
8
with
inches.
that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's part of the reality of it. Basically, what is said is the work they're doing is uncovering why the frequency of growth impairment in boys and girls with Crohn's disease is different, pointing to sex-specific molecular pathways that may affect how well children respond to specific therapies for Crohn's disease. They said that this is something IBD care has never done before. And so for us, like with Mason's age and where he's at, we're kind of at the end of this where this study isn't necessarily going to that's like the sad part and happy part, right? Because this is going to help future generations, but most of the kids diagnosed right now are not going to be affected by this unless your child is younger than puberty age, probably. But no matter what, it is so important to find these things out, and these things can help. And so it would be interesting to see, why maybe are girls usually taller than boys with this disease? Not taller than boys, but taller than, like, do they fulfill their growth chart, predictions more so? So these are interesting.
A goofy little hypothesis I have, which I know is definitely not the case because it's way too simple, is it says that there's more of a chance to get Crohn's as you get older. And so obviously you're going to have less of a chance to get Crohn's at 11 than at 20.
Yeah.
So like that. And girls grow faster than boys.
Well, I think that's
I
kind of what
think-
the study's trying to determine.
Yeah, and so they might grow before they get symptomatic.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of dumb, but maybe.
Right. But it
Maybe
could.
I'm right.
No, but those are the things that they're looking at, Mason. They're looking at all those aspects because it's onset. When did this, were you 13 when you got this disease versus being 10? And a lot of people are also, I think what's interesting is they might look at diagnosis age, but most kids are diagnosed. I mean, obviously they already have the disease and it's already been active.
Yeah.
So it could be even, you were diagnosed just a couple months after your 11th birthday. And so if it had been just a little faster, you would have been 10. at diagnosis instead of 11. It wasn't a whole year in between, it was only a couple months. So that age of onset is important. So you're right. They're going to look at all those different things. And I'm interested. So I'm going to have the link. You guys can follow along with that.
Yes. We also need to study the prediction of Crohn's disease with pickiness because that also seems like
Yes. Yes. Like have, because again, these are things like were the kids picky their entire lives? Were their bodies always performing correctly, getting all the nutrients in?
Like the kid might just be picky. That's
Right.
all it is.
But if they're later on diagnosed with IBD, maybe important to look back and think, has their growth patterns always been on the smaller side? Have they, overall, are a lot of these kids diagnosed, do they end up shorter versus boys versus girls? So anyways, cool study. I think it's, I'm happy to see that they're looking into this. It was something I hadn't thought of. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So also
ideas I haven't thought of.
We're going to wrap up here with looking into the late stage pipeline drugs. So these would potentially be next in line. So these are, and so we already talked about the first one.
More things to pronounce.
Icotrokinra.
Icotrokinra.
Yeah, that one. We talked about that above. That's the oral IL-23 receptor blocker. That's one of the next in line. Obefazimod. Right, that other one we mentioned, that one is also next in line. The anti-TL1A therapies, the tulisokibart.
And what's the name next to it? Is that
Duvakitug. I don't know why they have those two next to each other. I'm not entirely sure why.
I was wondering if it was like the Stelara and then Vitalize.
That's what I was kind of wondering too.
It doesn't seem like they both seem sciencey names, so maybe
so there might be have two
that are
different
using that.
Right.
I don't know.
So we'll put that, again, we'll have that information we talked about earlier. But those are the ones that are currently going to be up next. Probably you'll see more in the news and suddenly have their commercials or people are sitting on toilets again and, like acting like their lives are awful, but now they're great.
And Tito's still sending me these ads where this guy on a truck, where there's this truck driver and it just looks like he's driving the truck, but then it zooms inside the cab and he's sitting on the toilet while he's driving the truck. Right. And Tevio commercials are insane.
Right. It's like, and I don't know if it's because we do since we do a podcast on YouTube, does it know us? And it's like, oh, you guys are the people with Crohn's. It's like, what the heck? Yeah, I don't know. We see it all the time. I don't know about you guys. So
it's so fun seeing a little Christmas commercial about Hobby Lobby, and then right afterwards, it's someone sitting on a toilet, and you're like,
yeah,
oh.
Like great, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me I have Crohn's disease.
Awesome. So those are the ones we already mentioned. Those are going to be coming up that you should see soon. Two more that were mentioned were also the PALI 2108. So the PALI 2108. And this is interesting because we talk all the time about the different, like the JAK inhibitors, the biologics, and the way the different biologics work. This one is a targeted PDE4 inhibitor.
I haven't heard that before.
I have not heard that term. It is designed to concentrate in the gut. So it's an oral medication that targets the intestines.
Okay, kind of like the one we were talking about earlier. Okay, obviously different, right? But different. We're hearing is concentrating on the gut again. We're hearing that again.
And so that one is in phase 1B. So it's still pretty early on for ulcerative colitis and fibrostenotic Crohn's.
Okay, so
other one is the microbiome-based therapies, which this one is MB310 or MB310, MB310.
Bad.
And so these ones are using beneficial gut bacteria to modulate the microbiome rather than suppress the immune system. They're looking for early results, expected anytime now. So that's by the end of this year, but they're still in phase 1B. It's an oral medication, and it does say it's for mild to moderate cases. So not most of the ones we talk about, when we talk about biologics or JAK inhibitors, usually it's moderate to severe. That's usually the group. This looks like it's a maybe for people who quite not quite as severe yet, and looking at that gut bacteria. Because again, part of the problem in all this is really the breakthrough I'm waiting to see is what causes this disease.
That's what we need to fix.
Is this disease the same disease?
And that's how we get closer to precision. That's how we get closer to a cure. That's how we get closer to everything.
So the one thing I'm really looking forward to is figuring out the root, the cause of this, so this can, but at the meantime, because that's been really hard to do. We have all these people working on different therapies, and the more of these we have and the more things that they're attacking, they're going to start figuring out what works better, what doesn't, and then maybe subcategorizing those groups. And so So,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
very
I mean, I could
interesting.
be complaining right now, like, oh no, MB3110 is working on mild to moderate, and I'm severe. Oh shoot.
Right.
Or you could be happy because there's more research, more care going on,
Right. And it
and
can still potentially help you.
yeah, it could still potentially help you.
Right.
And just from this stuff, there's gonna be more stuff that more biologics, more
Mhm.
treatments that stem off from these things. And so with when there's more chances and
Exactly.
more possibilities of better things to come,
Right.
which are things to be happy about, right?
Like you think about before Remicade and a diagnosis like this, and your options were so much more limited. And so each of these biologics have opened a gateway into new treatments, and then
Yes,
you have your JAK inhibitors, which are coming on. Then, so it's an incredible. I feel like this past year there's been a lot of positive forward movement.
definitely.
And this is a huge part also to mention, good time to mention the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They are a huge driver
Mhm,
behind this and a
definitely.
big supporter of these companies. A lot of people
So,
are so hateful towards pharma and toward, I get it. I know there's like a love-hate relationship, but these are the people, like it is because of them
that
Mason
all
is
this is
doing as
happening.
well as he's doing.
Yeah,
It is a well for like a lot of you are doing. So
it's a reason to be thankful.
so
So,
yes, it is what it is, and we just have to keep striving for better and to do better for these patients. And what I'm happy to see is so much research going on and so many
I
breakthroughs.
mean,
So,
look at where the Crohn's world of research and biologic was 5 years ago when I was
right,
diagnosed. Look at where that was. And then look
right.
at,
I already feel like it's way a new world
yeah, and then
compared to
where
five
Remicade
years ago.
was. Compare when Remicade was
Yeah,
created to now. Look, and
just go
sure,
back 20 years,
that might 20 years might seem like that's a long time, but in the entirety of human history,
Short.
that is a fraction of a millisecond of a snap.
Right. It's
That
so
is
quick.
amazing how fast
Right.
we're getting places, and
And
that's
like you're
something.
saying, each of these builds on each other. So the more
Yeah,
we have, the more we can build. And
because we have
so,
everything built off of Remicade,
hmm
everything we have now,
now we look
and
where
now
we're at.
everything is branching
Right.
off
It
of
can build
everything
off of all
else.
those.
It's
So
it's like an
yeah.
ant colony. You have one worker ant, a little bit gets done. Then there's more worker ants.
Yeah.
More the production rates, everything grows.
So hopefully, guys, I think what that did is it just gives me a lot of hope, and hopefully did the same for you out there listening to hear what's being worked on. We always try to do a good job, like making this easy to understand and easy for us to understand. To explain to you guys, but we will, like I said, we will include those links, and I encourage you guys to read them, do your own research,
Yes,
and
do your
and
own research.
yeah, and really just keep yourself educated, because the best thing you can do is not ignore this disease, ignore the treatments, and zone out on it. I think it's
Embrace.
yeah, and
Embrace it.
it doesn't mean like you have to like live and breathe this disease like all the time,
No.
but you'll be when you go to your appointments or need to talk to your doctor, you'll be better informed, and that can only help you
Yes, it can only help you
with this disease.
understand and get better with it.
So, with that, guys, that is the end of our episode
Yeah,
for
everybody.
now. Next time we come back to you guys, it'll be after Christmas. We'll be so
Mm,
I know all the
Sadness is
I
coming.
know, but it's okay. We've had a
What
good
is your favorite
season.
Christmas movie?
Maybe, maybe next time we'll talk about that. We'll do a wrap up of
Yes,
all the
we're gonna
Christmas
have to.
movies we
We're
watched.
gonna recommend a bunch. We're gonna
We
recommend
can
some
do that.
hidden jewels that you
Yeah,
might not know about. Obviously the most loved ones in our
we can do that.
family.
Maybe we'll do
Yeah,
something fun like
we're gonna
that.
we're gonna have to have a shared screen. We're gonna have a ranking board and the S
Oh
to
my gosh,
E
I'm gonna
to
have to learn how
yeah,
to do
and we're
this.
gonna rank all the different. No, we're not gonna do that.
Right. If you guys want to see what we've been up to this past week, we went to two different blood banks and we handed out treats to people to say thank you. Met with some donors and heard their stories. Really cool thing to do. We always enjoy doing that. So if you want to check out us on Instagram at Team IB Determined, you can see what we've been doing. Check out our pictures, and you guys can follow the Reggie Project, and you guys can listen to us on any podcast station like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts,
Which
and
you're probably already listening to us on
right.
something, so you already have
And
that
if
set
you're
up.
like, oh, Mason's wearing the same sweatshirt, I want to see it.
Or if you're like, wait, there's more. There's also more podcasts leading to Buzzsprout,
Mhm.
which leads us to YouTube podcast, which has YouTube videos, so you can see
Right,
this
that
Christmas
he's
sweater
again
once again
part two.
wearing it. Part two. Yeah. So you can go if you're on YouTube. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a jolly new video, make sure you hit that bell
Yep.
icon. Please leave us a comment. What's your family's favorite Christmas movies? What
Hmm.
did you learn from this episode? Is there anything we missed? What's your favorite type of insect, bug, arachnid?
I'd like to hear too what you are kind of most excited about.
Yes, what are you most
You
excited
know, like maybe
about?
what we talked about today, what interests you the most?
Of this
And these are all things that help us too, but for things to talk about. But anyways, hope you guys, feel a little bit more hopeful and are excited like we are to hear what's going on in the IBD world.
Feel hopeful this holiday season.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks and here to tell you about our favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah, and more probably.
Yep. So, all right, guys, we'll have a good weekend,
Have a
work
good
week,
right.
weekday, whatever, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever
Jolly
it is.
day.
Have a good one.
I don't know.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks to see you on the next episode. All right.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.